Okay, by the time this video gets out there, there's probably going to be even more. But with a brand new multi-million page Epstein data dump, I wanted to dive in and look at the most immediately damaging stuff that we have, and also talk about just how badly the government screwed up because it is bad. Like historically bad levels of incompetence. Let's start with this because we absolutely need the context. On January 30th, 2026, Blanche took the stage for a massive press conference unveiling that the DOJ and the FBI would be releasing about. The important part is at about 4 minutes and 10 seconds, in where he discusses the redaction guidelines and bloviates at length about how strict the criteria was, how hard their staff worked on these redactions, and how nothing was being withheld on the basis of national security. If you actually listened to him and took his words at face value, which you absolutely should not do, this is the most transparent administration ever. The quality of their work is unimpeachable, and the redactions that they made were only to protect victim information, nothing else. Sadly, that is a lie. Over the course of today's video, I'll go through a series of examples in an effort to give as comprehensive a look as I can so far for this file dump. But at the end of it all, I want everyone to consider a question. Is the current governing administration in the United States telling the truth? Here we go. Item number 1, which is actually 2 documents in this case, EFTA 0166069 and EFA 0166061. These documents show a collection of insane allegations against Donald Trump. These come from the NOC, National Threat Operations Center at the FBI, which is where they process and vet public tips. And some of them are very obviously marked as not credible. Others are flagged as no contact made after attempting to follow up with the caller. But here and there, you start finding that some of these reports resulted in a quote lead being sent to conduct interviews. Obviously, I can't comment on the authenticity of these allegations overall, but there's something else I found interesting. Something far more important in my mind that speaks to the credibility of the DOJ, the Department of Justice itself, and their decision-making when it came to these redactions. Look at these 2 documents. Separate files, sure, but not always different content. Quote complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed 3 separate blank, and then it's all redacted. However, this file isn't. The rest of the sentence says, quote, incidents involving police, which requested in mandatory psychiatric evaluations, end quote. That right there, although small in a vacuum, is the very first example in a massive, massive pattern. A pattern where the DOJ is redacting things that make no sense. Things that they have no legal right to withhold, and things that may in fact matter a great deal. We just don't really have the ability to know because we don't have the full picture. Example, they literally redacted the word none in this file, and you can straight up read some of the other redactions because they're not centered properly. It's a joke. Even still, keeping in mind that the goal here is to analyze everything as objectively as possible, we need to do a bit of a fact check because despite massively viral social media claims all over the place, these 2 files were not actually pulled down or deleted immediately after publication. There were some 404 errors displayed on the DOJ website briefly, but they were ultimately resolved within minutes, I think actually, and the files are now clearly visible again. I'm not sure why that happened. The sheer amount of traffic may very well have played a part as people flooded into the directory specifically searching for those particular files. And it's entirely possible that the DOJ panicked, deleted them, and then reinstated them like they appear to have done previously with a different batch of files. But this time, I honestly see no indication of that happening. This time it feels like a genuine glitch. Do you want to know what isn't a glitch? This right here, an FD302 victim interview, which is mostly redacted, clearly protecting certain perpetrator names alongside the potential victims. But even from what we see unredacted, quote, Blank was invited to Mar-a-Lago where she was given a tour by Trump with Epstein and Maxwell present. Nothing happened between Blank and Trump. By the things that Maxwell said, it was made clear that Blank was available. Maxwell said things like, oh, I think he likes you. Are you lucky? This is great. End quote. Put whatever kind of spin on that you want to, but what I see personally is a victim being presented to someone with the obvious implication that they can have her, if they want her. These are very serious allegations, and they're not the only ones. The sole focus of the video, by the way, isn't just Donald Trump, so I'm not going to read all of them. But the gist of it is that there are incredibly damaging revelations about how close Trump and Epstein were so far beyond what we've been told is true. It is no longer possible to handwave the files away as just a Democrat hoax. Pivoting back to the first two documents, I also want to point out something else. In between the spreadsheets and the accusations, we have emails in August of 2025, but the thing about these emails is that here we can see that they clearly acknowledge redacting a reporter's name who explicitly is not a victim. Anthony Sibeli, I think is how you say it, while also on one of the sheets failing to redact an actual potential victim name, Leslie McKitchell, in a further display of incompetence. That's only the searchable portions of the archive that they've indexed, which hasn't even all been released so far. Let's move on to someone else. Okay, arguably the largest individual catalyst who has been deliberately stoking speculation about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and that is Elon Musk. Elon has long maintained his near-total separation from Epstein. He claims that the photograph of him and Ghislaine Maxwell is just a photobomb that she perpetrated and he had no idea about it. He claims that he was invited to Epstein Island but refused. And he desperately lashes out at anyone who insinuates otherwise over the past several months. Quote, "Shame on Sky News for this utterly misleading headline. Anyone pushing this false narrative deserves complete contempt. Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. Yet they named me even before Prince Andrew, who did visit." End quote. Strong words, very defensive. But it turns out that we actually have emails between Musk, Epstein, and Leslie Graff, one of Epstein's assistants. Reading, quote, "Elon to Epstein will be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit?" End quote. That's a little bit curious given his proclamations that Epstein invited him to the island. But let's read on. Epst replies, "Any day 1st to 8th, play it by ear if you want. Always space for you." After which Elon says, "Okay, probably the 1st then." They correspond back and forth a bit longer, but anyone who reads this conversation can decidedly say with certainty that Epstein was not asking Elon to go to his island. Elon was trying to go. Oh, that's not enough. Okay, I can understand that. Some people really drank the Kool-Aid. Here's an email from Musk to Epstein after Epstein asks, "How many people will you be for the heli to the island?" Saying, quote, "Probably just Tula and me." Tula was his wife at the time. "What day night will be the wildest party on your island?" End quote. Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. Okay. Yeah. Ultimately, for this particular set of exchanges, it doesn't look like Elon actually attended the party in 2012 or 2013. But a couple of months later in February, we see this thread between Musk and Epstein seemingly indicating that Epstein was given some kind of private tour of SpaceX. Interestingly, when it comes to Epstein receiving tours of various facilities, that's not even the only example. Right here with this email, we can look at the competence of the redaction team yet again, and it's really not good. In this particular email from March of 2014, Epstein is corresponding with an unknown redacted individual. And yet, in this next thread, document EFTA0000985800, we can see the same exact email, this time unredacted with the name Alan Jones. There is no justifiable or legal reason to be redacting that man's name. Just for the sake of really hammering this point home so that even the brain-dead fans of Elon Musk are still able to fully comprehend, let me read one more email thread. This 1 December of 2012, which for clarity's sake is after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008. Quote from Epstein, "You are welcome to stay or just come for the day. Plenty of room. I will send heli to get you." End quote. To which Elon replies, "Do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year, and so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for." End quote. Still not finished, by the way. Epst replies, "Understood. I will see you on St. Bar. The ratio on my island might make Tella uncomfortable." End quote. After which Elon chimes in again, "Ratio is not a problem for Tula." End quote. Honestly, I really don't think I have to spell it out here. But this is Elon Musk asking to join the most notorious pedophile in recent history on his personal island to let loose, deliberately requesting to be there for the wildest parties. And when Epstein indicates ratio, as in a lot of young women, which might make Elon's wife uncomfortable, Elon says, "Not a problem." And this takes place years after Epstein was convicted of sex crimes. Riddle me that one, Elon fans. Side point. Here's two different versions of the same exact page that the DOJ uploaded. One of them redacts Elon's email address. The other redacts metadata. Combined, you can see the full page, obviously, thus rendering all of the redactions void. And they even shouldn't have been censored in the first place. So double whammy. Amazing. Now that we're talking about billionaires, however, let's just keep talking about that precious class of person. The billionaires. Remember Bill Gates, notoriously close with Epstein for like decades? Yeah, this email right here appears to show that Gates allegedly requested antibiotics from Epstein so that he could secretly give them to Melinda after contracting an STD from Russian girls. Quote, "To add insult to the injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD. Your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your penis. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to blank as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us." End quote. I'm just going to throw this out there. Having secrets between you and Jeffrey Epstein that have to remain between the two of you doesn't look very good. In fact, it might make some people think that you're guilty of heinous crimes. Maybe. For context, by the way, speaking to Vanity Fair in March of 2022, Melinda Gates has said, quote, "I did not like that he had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. No, I made that clear to him." Then saying after meeting Epstein a single time, quote again, "I regretted it the second I walked in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. My heart breaks for those women." End quote. At various times afterwards, she heavily insinuates that association with Epstein was one of the factors behind their entire divorce.